Hello there. Today I'm going to talk about the types of data in the data center and how they relate to master data management, or MDM. And generally speaking, there's three types of data in the ecosystem. And the first is structured data. And this is the data that's generally stored in your relational databases or stored in a very well-defined format in your object stores. This is generally the nouns in your the data that's the data that can be defined as nouns, and that would be like your customers or your employees, employee devices. If we're a telco, it's all of our cell towers, or if we're airline, it would be perhaps all of our flight routes. And that would be, so that's our structured data. And then you have your transactional data. And this can sort of be thought of as the verbs or the actions that around the nouns. So if we want to go with some of the data we just talked about, so cell towers are constantly transmitting performance and uptime and traffic data, and that's often being captured. So you have these streams of data coming in and often being analyzed and then archived or stored. And sometimes you're doing the analytics and getting the results you want and then just throwing away the raw data or archiving it and basically forgetting about it, but just keeping it in case you ever want to do further analysis later on. So we have our structured data, which we can be thought of as the nouns and things that don't change very often, and then the transactional data, which is stuff that's coming in as streams, so like purchases, or like I said, the cell tower example, or it could even like you'd go with flights. You would have like where I talked about flight routes would be like, I love it, like Japan Airlines flight 1 and 2 is, I think one's going from SFO, San Francisco, to Haneda Airport in Tokyo, and the other one's going from Tokyo to SFO. That would be a transaction. That'd be the transaction. So that'd be like the verb, where the flight route is the noun, the structured data, and the verb is the transactional data. Anybody with any kind of data sense is listening to this saying, well, wait a minute, all of our transactional data is being stored in a relational database or with really well-defined models inside of a object store. So it's structured too, and it is. But when we are looking at master data management, we want to treat the data that's representing the nouns in our organization and treat that differently than the transactional data. So yes, if you're going to cut it by precisely the way in which the data is stored, they're both structured. But when we're talking about in terms of master data management, we want to classify these differently. And then the third type of data is unstructured data. And this describes all of your Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoints, those kinds of things, images, videos, volumes of data. And so what I'd like to go through here real briefly is just how master data applies to this. So when we're talking about master data, we're talking about this one here, the structured data. And what we need to do is, to get more into this, there's a lot of introductions out there to master data management. We have one here that we invite you to listen to. But real quickly, for example, if we're a multinational and we have employee data spread across many systems in our ecosystem, we want, and a change is made here, then which systems are subscribing to that change? So if it's changed here, which systems should we push that change out to synchronize with? And perhaps all of these systems are subscribing to this change, but data governance maybe mandates that that data shouldn't go to all these systems. And so this is all part of master data management, and you're trying to create this golden record, But there's this notion of a golden record for the whole system, and that doesn't apply anymore because maybe what somebody in the EU should see about an employee is different from what someone in North America should see. So there's a sort of relative golden record, or sometimes it's just called a relative view, or there's a full view, and certain stakeholders can only see a subset of the data based on the permissions or the data governance that's set forward by your data governance officers and policies in the organization. So that's just a real brief on what master data is relative. And master data is generally all around your structured data and trying to keep it synchronized and implement policies so that the synchronization is done appropriately based on the data governance policies set by your data governance committees. So then you have beyond structured data, master data is then tightly coupled or should be used with your transactional data because you're doing joins. So when you're say that cell tower example, we have all the cell tower uh, information streams coming in, and we need to do some kind of analytics, and then we need to join our analytics with some sort of master data so we have this accurate picture of our analytics. So there's information on a tower, but where is that tower located? Maybe the tower has some kind of naming convention, and I need to grab all that information about that tower and join it with the analytics that I'm doing on this transactional data so I'm presenting an accurate view of things. And you might be pulling the data about the tower from an old system that's not being updated, so your data won't be reliable, it won't be accurate. And then the third type of data is the unstructured data. This is a real problem for organizations now, and I think it's a blind spot for many of them because the unstructured data could be things like images. The average IT ecosystems has 350 terabytes of data as of 2019, according to Gartner. That's from small, tiny organizations to big organizations. So that's just the average. According to Varonis, VARONIS, and 20% of your data is available to all employees inside the company. So if you do the math on 350 terabytes, that is 70 terabytes of data is available to all employees in the company. So you can export data from your master data system and import it to a tool like Varonis that goes around looking for security breaches in the unstructured data in your organization. So a good example would be if you're an airline carrier and you have a special AI app you've written so that it can do some kind of machine learning on all the bags, their weights and their shapes, and help the shipping staff place the bags in the optimal spot in the cargo hold of a plane. And so you have all these pictures of all these bags, but guess what? There's the lost bag tag on all these. And so all of that information is being made available to a lot of the employees in the company because just for the sake of having to do their job. Using a tool like Varonis, this security issue can be exposed. And so you can get the sort of relative golden records of all your customers and feed that to Varonis, and it can sort of search all the data, all this unstructured data, and it can go discover, hey, all these photos of all these bags, there's customer data there. We're getting matches there, and so some kind of corrective action could be taken so that they make sure that they erase all of the customer data out of all these pictures, but leave the other data because there might be important information, identifying information about a bag, if it's fragile, or just manufacturers if they have to maybe track something for a customer. So, so there's a real need for master data and your unstructured data too. There's lots of other use cases where you want to be able to take your master data and look at your unstructured data, one for security breaches, but also to do other kinds of analytics too that we could go into, but we'll save that for another day. So anyway, I hope that helps you understand the three primary types of data in your ecosystem, and then how, so you're structured, your transactional, and your unstructured data, and then how master data is key in working with these types of data. Because oftentimes we think about master data just being applied to the structured data in an organization. And no, really, it is a tool to be used with your transactional and your unstructured data as well. Thank you very much for listening.
And stay tuned for more, and please give it a thumbs up if you like this.